A new and dangerous escalation has swept across East Asia, triggering diplomatic fury, military posturing, and renewed fears of a potential clash between two of the region's most powerful nations, China and Japan. What began as a political dispute over statements related to Taiwan has rapidly evolved into a combustible mix of rhetoric and military activity, with China issuing one of its harshest warnings in years and Japan scrambling fighter jets in response to Chinese movements near its southwestern territory. At the core of this dramatic turn lies Taiwan, an island that has long been the flashpoint of competing nationalisms, military ambitions, and global strategic rivalries. Beijing views Taiwan as a part of its sovereign territory and has repeatedly vowed to bring it under its control by force if necessary. Taiwan maintains its own democratic government and asserts a separate political identity, while the international community delicately balances around a status quo that has held for decades, but one increasingly under strain. The situation intensified sharply when Japan announced that it would deploy missiles on an island close to Taiwan as part of a broader defense posture aimed at countering growing Chinese military activity. Tokyo's leadership framed the move as necessary to ensure national security amidst an environment of rising regional threats. But Beijing saw the move in a radically different way. During a press briefing in Beijing, Peng Qing'an, spokesperson for China's Taiwan Affairs Office, issued a chilling statement. "We have a firm will, strong determination, and a strong ability to defend our national sovereignty and territorial integrity," he said. Then, in words that reverberated across Asia's diplomatic circles, he warned, "We will crush all foreign interference." Those 8 words signaled a dramatic shift. China is no stranger to strongly worded warnings on the Taiwan issue, but this was different, more direct, more aggressive, and more explicitly aimed at Japan. It was a message not only to Tokyo, but to any foreign power considering deeper involvement in the Taiwan Strait dispute. Beijing described Japan's missile deployment as extremely dangerous and accused Tokyo of deliberately creating regional tensions and provoking military confrontation. Yet despite China's anger, Japanese officials remained unapologetic. They argued that recent actions by Beijing, from sustained military flights around Taiwan to aggressive maritime activities in disputed waters, left Japan with no choice but to bolster its defensive readiness. Japan's southwestern islands lie close to Taiwan and have increasingly found themselves near the center of China's military pressure. The political spark that ignited this crisis came weeks earlier when Japan's new Prime Minister, Takaichi, made comments in Parliament that fundamentally reshaped Japan's position on Taiwan. Responding to questions about how Japan might react in the event of a Chinese attack on the island, she said such an assault could constitute an existential crisis for Japan, a legally significant phrase that could allow Tokyo to exercise collective self-defense alongside allies. Her remarks were the most explicit expression of Japan's willingness to respond militarily to a Taiwan contingency in decades. Japan had previously relied on ambiguity, carefully avoiding commitments that might provoke Beijing. Takaichi's statement broke from that tradition, signaling a new era in Tokyo's strategic thinking. Beijing's reaction was immediate and explosive. The Chinese government condemned the remarks as a direct insult to its sovereignty claims. The situation deteriorated further when the Chinese consul general in Osaka, Xue Jian, posted and later deleted a threatening message on social media directed at Takaichi. His words, widely circulated before being removed, shocked Japanese officials and amplified the sense that diplomacy between the two countries was rapidly unraveling. This dispute did not exist in a vacuum. It came amid a broader set of retaliatory actions by China, including travel advisories discouraging Chinese citizens from visiting Japan, restrictions on Japanese seafood imports, and intensified maritime patrols around the Senkaku Islands, territory administered by Japan but claimed by China. But this week's developments pushed the crisis into even more dangerous terrain when Japan scrambled fighter jets after detecting suspected Chinese drone activity near one of its southwestern islands. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force confirmed that aircraft were launched to respond to what they believed was a Chinese reconnaissance drone operating close to Japanese airspace. For Japan, scrambling jets is a routine part of national defense, but the timing, amid heightened rhetoric and missile deployments, transformed a standard intercept into a symbol of how close the two nations now stand to direct confrontation. Chinese officials dismissed Japan's concerns, insisting that their military operations in the region were lawful and directed at maintaining national sovereignty, but Japan viewed the drone flight as part of a growing pattern of Chinese pressure, particularly aimed at testing Japan's defensive readiness and probing its political resolve. Across the region, analysts warned that both sides may be approaching a dangerous point where miscalculation becomes increasingly likely. When militaries operate close to one another during moments of political tension, even small incidents, a scrambled jet, a misinterpreted radar signal, a drone taking an unexpected flight path, can trigger disproportionate responses. What is driving Japan's sharper tone? Much of it comes down to regional shifts that have unfolded over the past decade. China's military modernization has accelerated dramatically. It has increased naval patrols around disputed territories, sent aircraft into Taiwan's air defense zone with growing frequency, and expanded missile deployments on the mainland. Meanwhile, Japan has undertaken its own defense reforms, increasing military spending, purchasing advanced weapon systems, and deepening military cooperation with allies. The political climate within Japan has also changed. A series of regional crises, from tensions on the Korean peninsula to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, have reshaped how the Japanese public views national security. Many now believe the country must play a more assertive role in maintaining stability in the Indo-Pacific. The rise of Prime Minister Takaichi, a conservative leader with strong views on national defense, reflects this shift. Her willingness to speak plainly about Japan's possible military role in a Taiwan crisis shows how dramatically the political landscape has evolved. For China, however, Takaichi's remarks and Japan's missile deployment represent intolerable provocations. Beijing believes that Tokyo is abandoning decades of self-restraint and aligning itself more closely with American strategic objectives, objectives that China views as aimed at containing its rise. Peng Chingan's warning was not simply a domestic political message. It was a signal to the world that China is prepared to respond forcefully to what it sees as violations of its sovereignty over Taiwan. His declaration, "We will crush all foreign interference," conveyed not only anger but the possibility of real military escalation. The situation also holds deep implications for Taiwan itself. As China and Japan trade warnings, Taiwan finds itself caught in the center of a geopolitical storm. Its government has sought to reassure the public while urging restraint from all sides. But the reality is that the island faces increasing pressure from China's military activities and growing uncertainty from the shifting positions of regional powers. Diplomatically, the crisis strains an already fragile relationship between China and Japan. Talks between the two nations have become increasingly difficult, with Beijing demanding that Tokyo retract its statements about Taiwan and Japan, insisting that China's military behavior is destabilizing the region. The United States, Taiwan's primary security partner, is watching developments closely. While Washington has not made public comments on Japan's latest missiles, it has long encouraged allies to take a more active role in countering China's military expansion. Whether the US sees Japan's actions as supportive or risky remains unclear, but the consequences of miscalculation could draw in actors far beyond Asia. Meanwhile, military analysts warn that the East China Sea is becoming one of the most militarized regions on the planet. Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese, and American forces all operate in overlapping zones. The risk of unintended conflict is compounded by an atmosphere of mistrust and intensifying nationalistic rhetoric. Even outside direct military activity, tensions are impacting the broader economy. China's trade restrictions and travel warnings toward Japan have triggered declines in tourism and disrupted key industries. Japanese companies operating in China face uncertainty amid the deteriorating political climate. Financial markets across the region remain on alert, responding quickly to any sign of escalation. As China and Japan continue their diplomatic and military maneuvering, voices calling for de-escalation are growing louder. Experts across the region warn that the stakes are too high for either side to miscalculate. A crisis involving two of Asia's largest economies and militaries would have catastrophic consequences for the entire region and potentially the world. Yet for now, neither Beijing nor Tokyo appears willing to back down. China insists foreign interference in Taiwan will be met with force. Japan maintains that its defensive posture is necessary to ensure the safety of its citizens and protect regional stability. As both sides dig deeper into their positions, the region edges ever closer to a precipice. This moment reflects not just a diplomatic dispute, but a broader shift in the geopolitical landscape, where long-standing assumptions are collapsing and new uncertainties are emerging. Taiwan remains the centerpiece of this uncertainty, serving as a mirror reflecting the ambitions, fears, and strategic calculations of the world's major powers. Whether the crisis can be contained through diplomacy or whether it accelerates toward a more dangerous phase depends largely on how both China and Japan navigate the next steps. Every statement, every military movement, and every political declaration carries weight. For now, one thing is clear: East Asia has entered a new and far more volatile chapter, and the world is watching closely, nervously, and with growing concern, as two historic rivals edge toward a confrontation that could reshape the region for generations.